Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pod Stallions. I am Brian, and with me to my very far left west is Jason. How are you, man?
I'm all right, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Very good. It's very hot here. I'm assuming it's hot where you are?
It is. It is. It's been very hot and dry.
Very hot and dry, yes.
It used some...
Sorry, I just had an action figure fall down thing here. You still there?
Is that a euphemism?
No, absolutely not in this room. I had an action figure on top of my DVD player, and that is what I was just trying to do, is grab the stack of movies I was watching, because our subject this week is what we're watching. And I don't know about you, man, but I have been kind of on a Blu-ray buying binge. And I'm very susceptible to suggestion. And I have picked up a ton of stuff, some good, some bad. So I thought we'd go through it. So I'm going to let you lead off and talk about a title.
I'll start by saying we're gonna make this a slightly more condensed episode. We've both been a little crazy busy with stuff. Apologies for how long this is taking to get a new episode, but we're going to record something new this week, and something will be up again quicker. But I can't speak for you, but I certainly have reached an absolute burnout point for many things, where I've just had this. It's funny that you suggest this, because the last, I'd say, maybe 3-4 weeks, I have just been going movie crazy with just watching things. In other words, instead of like trying to binge an entire series or even pay attention to the news or, anything, I'm just going right to play movies. And I'm kind of getting lost in things. Sometimes I get in these moods where everything is connected to everything. So sometimes I can put something on and it's going to remind me of a certain summer or a certain relationship or a certain time in life. And I'm just trying to put things on where I don't have to think and I can just let it go. And a few weeks ago, Turner Classic Movies was doing a Hitchcock thing. And, I don't think we and I have ever really talked about Hitchcock, but I'm a pretty good sized Hitchcock fan. And I recorded a bunch, and I watched the 39 Steps, which I haven't seen in, 20 some years probably. And I was kind of astounded at how amazing it was, and just the techniques that were in it, and just how everything sort of comes out fully formed that he did for the rest of, some of the stuff he held over from his silent days, and then just everything that came after, how crisp the script was and everything, which then led to the next one and the next one. So I pulled out my Blu-ray set of Hitchcock, and I spent, a couple of weeks going in and out of Hitchcock movies I hadn't seen in ages, and then watching all the extras and stuff, which then led to taking out my Bogart set and, a few other things, and just trying to get lost in older movies for a change, which I haven't done in a while. So I've been doing a lot of that, and it's been kind of cleansing. It's been nice to just,
that sounds like a good use of your time, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's all stuff that I've seen before, but sometimes you just need to be reminded, and it's just kind of a comfort, even like Psycho. Psycho is one of those movies that, it's like Jaws. It's so, it is what it is. It's so iconic that, it gets talked about so much. But unlike, I've never been a fan of Vertigo. I know Vertigo is, everyone goes nuts for Vertigo, but it's never been one of my favorites. But if Psycho just looms so large that sometimes you leave it alone for 5-10 years, and when you go back to it, you really do have this moment of just like, oh my God, this is really a stunning piece of filmmaking. And
the only thing I don't like about Psycho, and it's something my wife and I both talk about, is Dr. Exposition at the end.
Yes, and you know who he is, right?
No, not off the top of my head. I don't know now.
Because I'm watching it again, and it occurs to me, and then of course he is Dr. Exposition, and it's a little ridiculous.
No, man, you see Mother, no, man, like you're like, oh, bro.
And all I'm thinking of is it's Kolchak's boss.
Is that Simon Oakland?
Simon Oakland.
Holy crap! I didn't know that.
It's even more difficult for me to take it seriously.
Yeah, He doesn't believe any of this.
And then Kolchak took those pictures. I'm waiting for Kolchak to walk in and, snap his butt with a towel or something. So yes, I completely. I mean, I try to, I think that every time I see it, it gets to that point and I go, this could have been handled differently. But on the other hand, it's kind of like, this is information that's coming at an audience that's never heard stuff like this.
Oh, I get it. I do, especially at that time. Like you and I would get that a lot quicker than, It
does kind of take the needle off the record because so much of the rest of it is so unsettling. Even the lead up, before she gets to the motel, it's unsettling, without anything really creepy happening. It's just the way he shoots it. It makes you anxious. But yeah, when you get to that point, it's suddenly like, here's this big scene and it goes on forever. And it's the tone of it. It's the way he's delivering the information too, that almost makes it seem like, it makes it seem lighter than it should be, kind of the way he delivers it. That's always bugged me. You're right. It's that same thing. So anyway, so that's been fun. Just diving back into
you and I are always this way. It's like, hey Jason, what have you been eating? Well, I've been having caviar and I'm eating a gas station hot dog. Cinematically speaking, because I've just
we'll get to that. I might have a few surprises.
I watch a lot of garbage, and I thought I'd leave
with the fence while you went with your Jim Varney box set, if you wanted to go with that.
Can't afford that. The first thing I wanted to mention was, and this is something that might shock some people, but it would be the Dino De Laurentiis King Kong. I have never seen this.
That is shocking to me.
Yeah, it is. It's I've seen bits of it.
But it comes along with a lot of weird. You have these little inconsistencies that keep me on my toes, that don't make any sense in any logic.
I don't add up. Yeah.
You don't. If it were a murder trial, you'd go, but look at all the evidence. Of course he's seen King Kong. Of course. It involves Mego and our childhoods. Of course he's seen it. And then you're like, nope, never seen the whole thing. So
never seen the whole thing.
How could you ever have seen this movie?
Okay, there's the number one reason was, and being a Crestwood book reader enthusiast, the number one reason I never saw it as a kid or tried to watch it as a kid was that I was told in the schoolyard there were no dinosaurs in it, and which is true. And the minute that when you told 9-year-old Brian there's no dinosaurs in something, I don't want to watch it. I just really had that kind of snobbery going on.
Explains why you avoided Maude all those years.
I never avoided Maude. I was drawn to it like a moth to a flame. Are you kidding me? I actually remember something Walter said to Maude's grandson. Walter was drinking heavy once, and there's an episode where he's telling him how to pee, and he's saying porcelain on or water on porcelain is silent or something like that. Because
wow,
the kid's peeing, and so I'm a Maude fan. So I never watched it, and then a good friend of mine lent it to me in the 90s, but I passed out twice trying to watch it. But in my 20s, I used to fall asleep in bus shelters and malls. That was pretty normal. And so I just never watched it. And then I was watching a member of our Pod Stallions Facebook group, Ray Castile, who has an amazing little YouTube channel called I shouldn't call it little. Ray Castile's Basement of Horror, where he just it's very open camera kind of format where he just talks about monster toys, and this guy's been collecting monster toys as long as like I think he was doing it in his teen years like I was, so he knows his stuff. Mm-hmm. And I mainly watch it because he knows stuff about stuff I don't collect. Mm-hmm. Like that's what I watch. I watch stuff about other people talking about things I don't collect and will never collect, and I'm just fascinated with the nomenclature and that sort of thing.
Sure.
And he did a live stream, and I checked it out when it was on, and he mentioned how much he liked the Rick Baker commentary on this Blu-ray, and I thought I'm gonna just go on a limb and say you like commentary.
It you know what? It's funny. It depends. It's kind of, I don't do it often, but if I'm intrigued enough by the names, I'll on shows sometimes I'll go back and watch a couple episodes with the commentary. But yeah, it depends. But I'm not. Yeah. I was really into it when the Laserdisc scene was happening. When that was the only
so
way.
New and fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends. If it's commentary by the craft service lady that was on the movie, no. But it depends. But so Baker does a great commentary.
Yeah, and I haven't actually listened to it yet, but that made me like, all right, I was watching the thing. Okay, add to cart. I want to I'd never seen this Kong. Let's sit down and watch this. And I want to just point out that I own every terrible King Kong knockoff on Blu-ray.
We know. We, me and the audience know that you've seen every Kong thing ever. And that's why people have pulled off the road and they've packed out at this point.
So I am no longer a De Laurentiis Kong virgin. I watched the whole film.
And
it was a good film. It's got that 70s cynicism to it, so that it that we're not going to take ourselves totally seriously, and there's some silly stuff in there, but it is what it is. It's definitely a nostalgic trip, and it's definitely not a bad film.
It's one that when I think of it, I think more of seeing the poster. I think more of seeing some merchandise. I think more, like lunch boxes and things.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
I think of that much more than I ever think of the film. I think I've seen it maybe once or twice. I remember, I think the first time, I think I might have seen it in the theater, but I don't remember. But I remember seeing it when it aired on ABC or whatever it was. And I just remember even being a kid being struck by, and I think I knew who Jeff Bridges was, but that might have been the first thing I saw him in and noticed who he was, and then started to notice him in things. But I was struck by how often he put his hands through his hair in the movie. It is non-stop. It's like a drinking game. Take a drink every time Bridges puts his hands through his hair, because he's got that long hair and the beard. And it's an interesting choice for the lead too, because he's such a good-looking guy. I mean, he is he's a handsome guy, and they really make him look like, he's a roadie for the Allman Brothers in that movie.
Yeah.
It's a weird choice for the lead. I know everybody had beards then or whatever, but he definitely looks like he's doing the sound check or something, And then
sibilance.
Yeah, and Grodin, of course, is in it. And then I think it's Lang's first film, maybe? Is it Jessica Lange's first movie?
It's one of her early films. It definitely. I don't know if it's her first film.
And I remember the name because it's isn't it Dwan? It's like Dawn.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
That was very interesting. The way they tried to flesh out those characters, I found that really interesting.
But I don't remember it just being a bit of a slog, but it's more the nostalgia of it, because it was a big deal at the time that it when it hit.
To be perfectly honest with you, I think I liked it better than the Peter Jackson version. Because
I don't like the Peter Jackson movie. I got to tell you,
it's too busy.
It's too busy. It's too it loses me at the ice skating.
I had a good friend of mine, the same good friend that lent me the VHS. He asked me, I think he gave me a copy of it, and I watched it, and then he said something to the point of like, you know what that movie needed? More of that young Jack character. And I just remember really laughing at that, because it was a really subtle joke, because you just don't even know why that character gets so much spotlight in the film, but
there's so much in it that just doesn't need to.
Yeah,
the ape is incredible. I mean, it's circus, and it's the effects are amazing. It's just
salt though.
My 2 cents: the Skull Island and the new Kong versus Godzilla. To me, that's Kong. I'll take both of those any day.
I love Skull Island. I haven't seen Godzilla versus King Kong.
Again,
I know.
Again,
I am an anomaly.
Keeping everyone on their freaking toes. Well, this you'll appreciate, I think, since you're Canadian, or you claim to be Canadian.
Yeah, as far as you know.
I've been on a Cronenberg kick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think it might have been Videodrome that kind of set it off, because I picked up Videodrome, the Criterion, and just went through all the extras. And I hadn't seen it in a long time, but I was shocked at how, once again, you come to something, years later, and I was like, man, Cronenberg saw everything coming around the corner. The titillation, the overstimulation of media and people wanting more and more and pushing the envelope and stuff. It's all there in Videodrome, and I forgot how extreme it gets. And of course, it's got Debbie Harry in it, so it's a winner for me. But that led to rewatching Existenz, which I hadn't seen since it came out.
Oh, my friend Sean did that.
That's a great movie. It's really good. Very, if you know Cronenberg stuff, you know some of his themes, but body horror.
Yeah, body horror. Yeah.
His things, and there's plenty of that in both of those, which then led to Naked Lunch, and I'm about to watch Crash, which I haven't seen since it came out. And what was the other one that I was going to do with of his? And I also watched Rabid. I found.
Oh wow, Rabid! I haven't seen that in forever. Is something that I have a couple of funny stories about. One was when I rented Naked Lunch. I rented it with a friend of mine. I think we were in our early 20s, and I grabbed a 6-pack of beer, and we were going to watch this movie, and we both weren't prepared for its tone. Neither of us felt like drinking. I remember that. I think I had one beer out of that 6-pack and went, eh. And about 2 years ago, maybe you saw the photo, I went to a huge outdoor flea market just outside of Toronto.
Yes.
And I ran into a mugwump prop.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah. And
that's right. It is. I mean, I hadn't seen it since it came out. I saw it at the Uptown Theater in Minneapolis, I think. And I hadn't seen it since. And I was once again really surprised. I think it's a worthy film. I think everybody should see it. It is certainly not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I admire it for what he was trying to sort of do, but it is not a pleasant film. It is strange, and it's almost like, strange to the point of trying to be strange, but I don't think so. It's just, and again, I only read part of the book. I couldn't really get through much of that stuff, but Peter Weller's in it, and Judy Davis, and Ian Holm and Roy Scheider, and it's got all these great faces in it, but it's an odd film, to say the least. So anyway, so that made me think, the Canadian thing made me because he really is. And actually, it's funny on this on the Videodrome Criterion, there is a really cool interview done for Z Channel in '82 with Mick Garris conducting the interview, and to his left is John Landis, John Carpenter, and David Cronenberg. And Landis was prepping whatever his next thing was going to be. They didn't say at the time, but he had finished. American Werewolf had come out already. Carpenter was about to release The Thing, and Cronenberg was in post on Videodrome. And you look at the three of them, it's like Landis looks like the annoying kid that won't shut up, that's fidgety and might have some kind of issues. Carpenter looks like the guy that sells you weed, and Cronenberg looks like the normal husband in suburbia that probably belongs to a book club and keeps people buried in the basement. When you watch it, it's just such a. But the three of them, it's like these seminal things in their lives, and The Thing was about to come out and was a disaster, bombed, and you couldn't find a good review of it.
It was so brutal.
Videodrome helped put Cronenberg more on the map, because he was following up Scanners, and Scanners was huge.
Videodrome was big here because at the time, anybody making waves in Hollywood that was Canadian was going to get a lot of press here. And I remember Videodrome had a lot of publicity here, and of course there's some Toronto radio personalities in that film. Just like he used to cast Canadians in the films, and
there's that guy he shows up in Naked Lunch and Existenz and Videodrome. He's got that really long face, kind of an underbite, balding. I can't think of his name, but he shows up in a lot of Cronenberg stuff, and he's a Canadian actor. Because Lou Lou Albano, who's the guy I always talk about, the bald guy.
Oh yeah, Louis Del Grande.
Louis Del Grande is the guy that explodes in Scanners.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, which I didn't realize until many years later.
Louis Del Grande is not Canadian, by the way.
Oh, what is he?
He's an American. He moved to Canada to
make it.
To make it, I guess. Yeah.
Speaking of Rick Baker, I forgot that Baker did the effects for Videodrome.
Did he really?
So, yeah, he had just finished with Landis, and so you're sitting there, and like Carpenter had worked with Rob Bottin on The Thing, who Baker was originally going to do The Howling, and then Landis said, "Oh, I got American Werewolf is happening." Oh, shit, I told you I'd do that. So he left that through The Howling Bottin, to Dante, and then Baker ends up Bottin ends up doing The Thing, and then Baker ends up moving on to Videodrome, and all three guys are there being interviewed by Mick Garris. I thought that was kind of a cool.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah. The one thing about Videodrome that always makes me laugh is that my wife, my then girlfriend in college, had to take a media course, and I can't remember, but they made her watch Videodrome and do a paper on it, and she friggin' hated it. And she's never warmed to the film. She thought it was stupid, had to hear about it for a very long time. And as a result, if something has James Woods in it, she's not interested.
Yeah, it's
to this day.
Which is understandable even before Videodrome, kind of. I always found him annoying, but
he plays a good sleazy dude.
It's weird. It's kind of linear at first, and then it just goes batshit crazy. And I like it for. Here's the thing about Cronenberg that I admire is his consistency. I mean, he's never really. I mean, you get every now and then like The Fly. I mean, The Fly was a big Hollywood movie, really. I mean, if you think about it compared to stuff that he'd done, but it was a massive hit. But it still was totally a Cronenberg film. And then,
it was uncompromised. Yeah,
and
I agree.
Dead Ringers. I remember Jeremy Irons winning for what was the movie where he played Von Bulow? Glenn Close was.
Yeah.
Whatever that was. When he won the Oscar, he said, I remember his speech, and he said, I'd like to thank David Cronenberg to put me in Dead Ringers. And he basically was saying, that's what I kind of thought I'd get a nomination for, was Dead Ringers, but he didn't, and because it was such a strange film. But just about everything Cronenberg's done has had that Cronenberg feel to it. Even like A History of Violence.
Yeah.
It still feels like a Cronenberg flick, but when it goes violent, you're like, oh yeah, that's Cronenberg, for sure. So I've always admired him. He's one of the few Canadians besides SCTV and you and Rush. No, I'm kidding. I love Canada. Come on, I'm honorary Canadian. I'm from the Twin Cities, for God's sake. We're practically
you are on the same wavelength.
Absolutely.
It's colder there than in Toronto.
Yes, believe me.
I am further south than you. Growing up.
So what's the next thing that you watched that everyone thought you'd seen at this point, but you've never actually seen?
It was something I'd seen. Another member of the Pod Stallions group had posted, I'm not sure if he posted in the group or on his own, a movie called Fear No Evil. And I hadn't seen that since I was a kid, and there's a very special connection to that film for me that has nothing to do with the film itself. The preview for that movie used to play in a loop. Like, we used to have a channel promoting our pay TV channels. And they would play the trailers for the movies incessantly, and I only had like 12 TV channels, 2 were in French, so I would occasionally just like sit there and watch the movie trailers over and over again as a 10, 11-year-old. And the trailer for Fear No Evil had 2 songs in it. It had Blitzkrieg Bop, I believe, and it had Anarchy in the UK. And I didn't grow up in I grew up in kind of like rural Toronto. And so hearing that, like, I must have listened to that. I was watching that trailer just to hear that song over and over again. And that trailer is semi-responsible for my lifelong love of punk music. And so I didn't actually watch the film until I was in my 20s. I rented it once. And so I'm not, I barely remember it. So I watched it. Somebody posted it, and I got Rich posted it, and I got the feels, and I added it to cart. And it's a Shout Factory release, so there's some nice bells and whistles on there. But basically, what it is it's sort of like, I guess I'd call it like The Exorcist and Carrie. This kid is the Antichrist. Oh no, sorry, like The Omen and Carrie. So it's
wait a minute, is this the one with Robert Powell in it? British Robert Powell, early 80s.
It's the lead in this film is Stephen R. Grimm, who was the kid off Land of the Giants.
Okay.
I don't know who Robert Powell is.
He played He played Jesus of Nazareth in the miniseries. He was in did a lot of Ken Russell movies, big bright blue eyes. You'd recognize him if you saw him.
Okay, no. I don't think this is the same one. This was a film, and it's weirdly enough, it's made not far from me. It was made in Rochester, New York.
Okay.
I think I've spoken to a couple people who've said, "Oh yeah, that's my high school." They filmed that in, which is kind of funny. But it's an interesting film. It's definitely like the kid is the Antichrist, and there's also archangels coming to stop him. And it's a very interesting take on it's a very early 80s film, so to speak. I'm enamored with it because of watching that trailer as a kid.
Something easy to find streaming?
I do not know.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. That's why I purchased the Blu-ray,
Oh, okay.
because I could not find it on any streaming service. And um, I think the next billionaire will be the guy who just invents an app that you plug in a movie title and it goes, yeah, you don't own this. You don't have any access to this on streaming.
Right, because you got to
Yeah.
search. Well, it's funny. That's a good segue.
Mm-hmm.
And to keep the Canadian theme going,
Hmm.
uh, the new Amoeba opened up a while ago, and so I've done a
Jealous.
couple of visits where I take stuff in to trade in and get some credit and go a little crazy. And I got the box set, Kids in the Hall. Every series, and then Death Comes to Town is all in this same box set, which isn't streaming anywhere. None of this stuff is streaming. You can find, certain episodes or sketches on YouTube, and Brain Candy's on YouTube. But I've been dipping into that quite a bit as well. I got real nostalgic because of the new series they're doing for Amazon, and on their Twitter feeds, McCullough and Thompson and I'm trying to think of who the other one who's actually posting. Well, those two are Foley's posting more too.
Yeah, he is.
Photos and updates, and the other day was the last day of shooting, and I started to get real nostalgic, and I hadn't seen a lot of this stuff in a long time, and I was just brings me joy, just makes me laugh, and so much of it holds up, and they're so good. So that's
It's crazy nostalgia for me because I was living in Toronto at that time.
right.
And you see so many landmarks and things, like where they filmed. And yeah, that totally blows me away now. Like I can watch it just to look at the scenery, like where they're filming.
Well, what I find about it too is they're not afraid to go scatological. They're not afraid to go to delve into crude, but
Yeah.
they never. It's a tiny percentage of the body of the stuff that they've done. There's a gentleness to them that makes them a great hybrid of Python, because they're obviously influenced by Python and SCTV.
Oh yeah.
And some of the bonkers stuff. I never liked the guy with the cabbage for a head. That never made me laugh. Plenty of stuff does, but that just never made me laugh. But Thompson doing Buddy, his monologues. I mean, just brilliant.
Oh, I was just thinking of Kevin McDonald's Buddy Holly, which is just awful.
Kevin McDonald's Buddy Holly. Kevin McDonald to me is the unsung hero of the troupe.
So he's like the Joe Flaherty.
He it's kind of like this, but there's something manic he brings to everything he does.
Yeah.
And McKinney, when he plays a woman, Foley's the sexiest of any of them in drag.
Yeah, he's the hot mama.
But McKinney does this woman voice that just makes me laugh. It's just kind of perfect. And I hadn't seen Death Comes to Town probably since it originally aired, and I couldn't believe how funny that was. I forgot how good it was. And then I watched
Norby.
What's that?
It's filmed in Norby. My aunt lives there.
Well, maybe she shows up in a scene.
I looked for TT. No, she's not in it.
So that's something that you can't find streaming. And on that note, the other thing I got, which I know we've been talking about for a long time, and I think I ordered it twice and it didn't show up, and I canceled and I got a refund, etc. And then I finally found it through Amazon UK. is the full entire series of Blake 7 on DVD,
wow.
Region 2 DVD. And this particular copy, I believe, is from Germany, because all the menus are in German.
Oh yeah.
And you get no subtitles to whatever. Now, I don't know how much of the show you've seen.
I probably watched the first 2 seasons, and then I tap out.
I'm just gonna say that as low budget as Doctor Who always was, and you could see the paint drying and the seams ripping and stuff.
Yeah.
Freaking Doctor Who feels like, you know, like, Lord of the Rings compared to Blake Seven.
Oh, so Blake Seven, yeah, and it's got the same kind of production quality as like the Tomorrow People.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Just like from just the audio and hearing things move, and holding a prop and knowing it's not metal and it's made of leather, but it's spray painted silver and everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of one take shots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like sort of rehearsed fight scenes that still seem kind of rehearsed, and so I'm trying to I try to just embrace it. Sometimes it's just kind of on in the background.
Well, the thing about that show is it is so ahead of its time in concept.
Yes, absolutely.
And tone, but execution, it is so like it is 10 years too late. Like, you're right. Like it is a very almost. Well, it's the budget. BBC is a professional organization.
It's the budget. Yeah. If it had been on film and had a bigger budget, the writing is very good. I mean, these are not particularly pleasant characters. They don't get along.
I would say that most like post 90s, like Battlestar Galactica, that sort of stuff, that like a lot of that stuff owes itself like Blake Seven a due, because Blake Seven was kind of the trend setting series at the time anyways. And
the thing between Avon, played by Paul Darrow, and Blake, that's like this combative, like you don't know if you can trust him kind of thing. Now I just started season 4, so I know how it ends, but I'm gonna I don't know how we get there, but you can see how he became the breakout character.
Yeah.
And why he's so. And the woman, I forget her name now, played Servalan,
Jacqueline Pierce.
Jacqueline Pierce. I mean,
she was the reptile in Hammers, the reptile.
That's right.
And she's getting an action figure this month.
And she was in your favorite Colin Baker Doctor Who story, The Two Doctors.
Oh, they're all my favorites.
So there's great, and Darrow is just, he's as camp as Christmas. I mean, he's so over the top and so, twirling his mustache kind of, but it's you're right. You're absolutely right. Like the vibe of it, it's kind of interesting to me that it was a hit show. I mean, I looked it up and it was saying like season 1, it was getting like 10 million viewers per episode. And then they renewed it, and then it did well enough to do a third, but Blake didn't want to come back. Yeah. So they get the guy, but then apparently they think season 3, that's it. They're done. They are done with this show. It's over. And apparently, like the night the last episode aired, the controller at BBC made a phone call like, let's do another season. And we all, what? And then so everybody had to hustle to get the 4th season out there, but the ratings had gone down. But some guy just went, yeah, let's do it. So they did another season. But it's a strange show, but it's been interesting to finally catch up.
I'm a fan. I respect it. I really like it. But yeah, it's I can't believe it's never gotten some sort of remake.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, and again, I looked it up, and apparently Darrow, I think at some point Darrow had tried to acquire the rights.
Yeah, and I don't know much about Paul Darrow, career-wise or anything like that, but I think he really embraced that. Like that was his moment of fame, and it just it's strange to think that, because it didn't get the international popularity that Doctor Who did.
Right. And it got like the corgi. It got some annuals. There was never much
in the corgi that none of us knew where it was from, and we flew it backwards.
Right. Exactly. Because even that it's a weird design, and you go, it doesn't make sense that it would go that way. But that's one of the interesting things about. I mean, some of the design, the weapons are kind of cool. It's.
I got hooked on that show in high school. It played on YTV when I was about 17, And I remember watching like a marathon of it on a Saturday going, this is great. But
It's
then,
I saw it. I remember. I think it was on PBS, and I saw some of it, but it just never hooked me. And I must have been whatever age I was just like, I don't know, I don't, because it was not Doctor Who. It was something else. But you're right. It has an interesting tone, and they're not. They're arguing all the time. Like you just don't know who you can trust on this thing. And so I think that what Darrow wanted to do was have his character come back or something and be the elder, sort of the Charlie with, Charlie's Angels or something, or be the older guy. Like when Steed came back for New Avengers, you had the younger ones doing the action and stuff.
yeah.
And it never happened. And I think, why doesn't somebody? I think if somebody remade that now, I think it would do really well. Like it's got the grittiness, and it would fit in with everything else that's out there. You could still do it.
Yeah. Although, it would be, it'd be hard to watch it because they would, I mean, look at the casting in that show. Like the leading man, he's not a handsome dude.
No.
I don't know, no offense to Gareth Thomas, but he was kind of like a paunchy middle-aged guy.
Yeah.
And that's you won't get that anymore, And
There's one episode in the second season where they're all in a meditation room, and they're kind of barefoot, and they're like doing yoga and shit.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Just stuff like that very much dates it, and it's hampered by the budget.
Oh,
but
yeah.
A weird looking cast, and it's a strange show. I get why people love it.
I am very fond of it. I have pirated copies of all the episodes. Somebody sent them to me once.
Oh.
Like, I just mentioned I liked it, and then I got an email. It's like, download this, and I was like, oh my god. And like I said, I've probably watched the first 2 seasons, and then I just can't.
Because the new guy, I forget the new guy's name. The new guy comes in, and now the team is reduced by like 2.
Yeah.
So it's Blake's 4.
5,
but
yeah.
if you include the computer, the big square thing they carry around, then it's like Blake's 5. Is it kind of?
Yeah. It just, if it was streaming, I don't know.
That's the thing. It's not streaming. It's
no, it's not on BritBox. It's not on anything. It's really strange, actually.
So there's a little bit of Coney Island hot dog for you. Filet mignon.
Yeah, okay. No, but I still respect that. I picked up a movie that I have never seen, but I got this bored. A movie called Dr. Butcher, M.D.
Oh, actually, he was my urologist for a while.
Oh, was he? Wow, that's just a brutal name. Unfortunate last name. I remember
French.
There was a doctor in my town named Dr. Ballard, and I always thought that was funny because Dr. Ballard was the name of a brand of dog food in Canada.
That's funny.
Yeah. So this movie was actually what I discovered was this movie was actually 2 movies. It was a Italian film called Zombie Holocaust, and then somebody in the United States decided to make another movie, and that's one of my hooks, I guess you'd say, like something that actually like I wouldn't say turns me on, but it gets my attention, is that I love shit that like somebody had a movie and then another dude took it and made a different movie out of it. If that makes sense. Like I'm obsessed with it, and I have like a whole collection of these things. And there's another. I think I recently watched another one just like this, where the original movie is lost. And anyway, so it intrigued me, and it turns out that the Dr. Butcher has nothing to do with any sort of slasher. It is a very standard Italian zombie film of the era. In fact, it has some of the same cast as Fulci's Zombie and Alien Contamination by what's his name there? Luigi Cosi. So like I actually enjoy it. Like I really like one of the actors is Ian McCullough, who's like in all this stuff, and he's fantastic. So the film is, pretty much I've seen this film before. The disappointment. I mean, I've seen this type of film before with this cast. It's like I said, it's very similar to Fulci's Zombie, except they've added a cannibal aspect to it. But the interesting part about it for me was that the fella that the New York distributor is another guy who was like really involved in kung fu movies, and I find him a fascinating. He's a real Times Square grindhouse guy. And really, he didn't do a heck of a lot to this film. I watched both versions. What he did was, for the opening credits, he purchased somebody's unfinished film and used the footage for the credits to kind of do this narrative. So it's very subtle what he did, and it's not as the marketing for Dr. Butcher was more important than the film itself. He really didn't make a lot of changes to Dr. Butcher, MD. He just gave it a sensational title and added these new credits. And it was like, oh, okay. It wasn't. I was expecting, like, that's the part I really like to do. And this is just, one of my hangups is I like to watch the original film and then watch how someone ruined it. Or made it weird or changed scenes, and
right.
I really didn't get a lot out of it. But I enjoyed it because the film itself was a palatable little pot boiler that I had not seen before.
Well, there you go. And it satisfied your craving at the time.
Yeah, I don't mind early 80s splatter horror. I'm not a slasher guy, but like zombies and all that stuff, I don't actually mind that stuff.
Well, I'm glad you brought up horror because I also had placed an order a while ago. Let's see if I can find this here. With what are they called? Indicator. The company Indicator DVD.
No.
Really great stuff. Like they put out these Hammer box sets. They're up to volume 6. That's the one I got. It's got Shadow of the Cat, The Phantom of the Opera with Herbert Lom.
That's a disappointing film.
and Captain Clegg with a ton of extras on each one of them. But that's that set. And then I got Golden Voyage of Sinbad from 1977, which I bet I haven't seen since it was on, again, the ABC Sunday night movie kind of thing.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite Sinbad film.
It's great.
Yeah.
And it's got Tom Baker in it, for God's sake.
Carolyn Monroe and John Philip Law.
Oh, hubba.
Oh yeah, she's. I'm still an At the Earth's Core Carolyn Monroe is my favorite, but that's second.
I'll take Carolyn Monroe, anywhere she wants to be.
Have you seen Carolyn Monroe now?
I looked her up a while back and I saw her a picture of her at some show and she looks terrific.
She looks amazing. Yeah.
But there's a great 20-minute thing with interview with Baker on this DVD, going over his career and talking about Sinbad, and he's just as, interesting and slightly full of shit as he's always been.
I could watch Tom Baker just talk about his day.
Oh, I'm gonna miss him. He's just. I'm glad we have so much of him. So many.
Yeah, I'm super glad of that, and I also really like the fact that before he got Doctor Who, he was like poor, and he was also across the street playing in a cinema. Like, how weird is that?
Yeah. And he always tells that great story about getting the job and the BBC saying you got to keep quiet for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so he went back to work on the building site with these guys that, they called him Olivier or something. They kind of joked, like, oh, you'll make it someday, kid, kind of thing. And then the one day he went to work, one of his last days of work, it hit the newspapers. And so when he shows up, all of the coworkers are screaming and freaking out, and they put on a little, get a bottle of champagne for him and stuff, and he tells that story again. But they put together great stuff, and I haven't watched it yet because I'm having some issues with my my multi-region DVD Blu-ray.
Yeah, mine died.
It's not playing any Blu-rays suddenly the last couple of days.
Yeah.
It's playing regular DVDs only. It's not playing US Blu-rays, and it's not playing these import Blu-rays. And I've tried every which way to get it to work, and it's pissing me right off because this is just comfort to me. But I got they also put out a box set of Force 10 from Navarone, which has 2 different cuts, and it's got a booklet, and it's got some, photo cards and all kinds of extras and stuff. And it's just funny to me that this movie that I ran to see as a kid because it had Han Solo in it and never really had much nice said about it, suddenly has a nice big double disc box set for Force 10 from Navarone. So I was looking forward to watching that and all my Hammers. I only got to watch one of the Hammers before this thing seemed to crap out, so that's very disappointing.
That stinks, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Loki, watched all of Loki.
I have not.
There's this other show that's on the Disney Plus. Have you heard about this show? It's about these kids. Apparently it's a series of books, but what's his name who played Buster in Arrested Development? He's the lead, plays twins in it, and it's got a very Wes Anderson kind of feel to it. It's kind of fun.
No, I haven't heard of that at all.
It's pretty. It's a fun show. It's good. So Loki, and then I just marathoned the new McCartney show, which is McCartney and Rick Rubin. It's 6 episodes, just half-hour episodes. Rick Rubin just walking through music with them and talking about stuff. And that was lovely. I'm trying to think of what else I've kind of, besides movies, that I've been deep diving on. Any shows you've been marathoning or?
No. I'm behind on Loki. I'm behind on MODOK. Just
MODOK,
trying to think.
I've watched, I think 3 episodes of MODOK.
Yeah, I watched 3 or I don't know. There's certain shows that I prefer to watch with like a kid. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to watch stuff by yourself.
Let me react.
Oh yeah, no, with one of my kids.
Let me be very clear. There are no shows I want to watch with kids. Let's be clear, okay? I don't have children. If I go to your house and you have kids, I'll certainly watch something with them. But I don't make a habit of watching things with kids. But I see what I get what you mean. You want to see it work.
We all watched The Black Widow.
I have
the other day.
But as new things go, I watched The Tomorrow War on Amazon.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Just going to, I think sometimes, the old adage, like if you've got nothing nice to say, just don't say anything. And I'm just going to say this: $200 million. That movie cost $200 million. And that's all I'm going to say, because the remedy for me was the Soderbergh film that debuted on HBO Max called No Sudden Move, with Benicio del Toro and Don Cheadle and
I've heard of that.
David Harbour. It's just great. It's just like a film noir kind of pulpy, twisty turny, great script by Ed Solomon, who did all the Bill and Ted's. And
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
It's great, and it was just this palate cleanser of getting to that. I know I've talked about this show more than anybody cares to hear anymore, but the latest series of Inside Number 9 is up on BritBox. So all of the series are up on BritBox. All of Inside Number 9 is up there if you have BritBox.
I watched one of those.
Oh, you did?
I watched the first episode, and it has one of my crushes there, Jen from the It Crowd.
Yes, in the wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, I'm glad you did, because it's, to me, for my money, the number of episodes, the number of themes they've taken, the style. I mean, there's an episode in this new season that is it is a combination of a heist story, winking at Reservoir Dogs, and Commedia dell'arte, where you're wearing those like half masks. Some of the characters are wearing half masks, and pantomime. British pantomime, where you sort of talk to the audience, and they'll sort of turn the camera in between lines and stuff. I mean, they keep playing with the
what they always accuse John Nathan Turner of doing with Doctor
Yes,
Who.
well, he put them all in friggin' panto.
Yeah.
But they keep playing with different genres within the format, which is, once you get to the number 9, whether it's a warehouse or a house or an apartment or whatever it is, the entire story takes place in that one location. It never goes. But each one of them is very different. Even at their weakest, they're still better than 90% of what gets made. So I say it's the best anthology series consistently at best since the original Twilight Zone, and I stand by that. So the new season's up on BritBox, and and so if anybody has, I think it's the only place you can see it at this point is on BritBox. It used to be, it was on HBO Max for a bit. And then the Disney Plus show that I was just talking about is called The Mysterious Benedict Society.
Huh.
I think it's based on a series of kids books, but it's quirky, and quirky in like a Gravity Falls kind of way. I like.
Yeah.
Kind of like that, and it's just fun. It's just kind of a fun, gentle kind of show, and I'm digging it. Yeah.
I picked up a film the other day that I can't believe I'd never heard of. Okay. It was called Super Stooges versus the Wonder Women, and
Battle.
You've heard of it?
No. Oh. What is that?
It is a 70s released film. I think it's Italian, but it is, sort of like a kung fu comedy. It's really hard to peg down exactly what this was supposed to be about, or but it was basically
well, I'm not sure.
It's basically there's an Asian hero, an African superhero, and a guy that is supposed to be like the Phantom, immortal, and he protects everybody from this tribe of Amazons, and of course it's a fraud. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. You
said it's, you found it streaming, you said? Sorry.
No, I had to buy a DVD of it.
Okay.
And what was really funny about it was the only DVD, like somebody posted, again in Pod Stallions Facebook group, somebody posted the trailer, and I was like, how the hell have I never seen this? Like, I love stuff like this, and it's a fun, it's an action comedy like the Trinity movies or that sort of thing, and it's like an Italian Hong Kong co-production and early 70s, and it's just everything about it is like, God, why haven't I seen this? So I bought it sight unseen on DVD, and I got the worst DVD print I've ever, like, it's got the VHS hiss on the DVD print, like when I got the box and I open it up, it's just like a blank DVD in there, like, oh no. But the film itself was still a riot. I really enjoyed it, and what was funny was I took to Twitter after, saying, really enjoyed this, terrible print, but I really enjoyed this. And the first person to comment was Joel Hudson.
Oh, look at that.
Who said, yeah, terrible print, but that movie's a blast. And it was like, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, it did. I think he said something like, it's so glad that you found it, because I think he's a fan, and it's like, oh, okay. Still, it's like one of those things where you sit there and go like, how the hell, like, there's still stuff out there to discover. And Today I found out because I was watching. I bought a new Paul Naschy film from a company called Mondo Macabra, and it's one I've always wanted to see. But I always check out the extras first, and there's some coming attractions for the new films that Mondo's going to do, and I wanted to go through them. And boy, they like to do films with nudity. But one of the films was called the what was it called? The Deathless Devil.
Okay.
And it looked goofy, so I started looking into it. And it's a Turkish film made around 1972 that is a remake of a movie serial called The Mysterious Dr. Satan,
Okay.
which they played on Magic Shadows when I was a kid, and I got hooked on The Mysterious Dr. Satan, and that's about a guy who decides to become a superhero. It's filmed, it's in the 40s. He decides to become a superhero called the Copperhead, and he fights against this villain called Dr. Satan who has a robot.
Okay.
And it was like, I remember loving that when I was like 8. And the fact that, and I love Turkish films. They're just absolutely one of my obsessions. And it blew my mind that I'd never heard of this.
It's funny you say it. I'm zipping through YouTube right now trying to find this guy. He made me think of you. His channel is on the tip of my tongue. He's a very soft-spoken Australian guy.
Oh, okay. I know that guy.
And he's like, I won't do the accent, but it's like, hello everyone. And so I'm doing another thing here. A bunch of DVDs that I came across.
Funny you mentioned that guy. Very serendipitous, because the last thing I want to mention is he talked about his top 5 guilty pleasures recently.
Yes.
I had not heard of some of them.
Yep.
And one of the ones he talked about was the Ginger trilogy, about its female revenge films. So yep. I bought one of the Ginger trilogy. I bought the film The Abductors, and it came in, and I remember my wife going, "What the hell's that? What are you buying there?" And I hate it. I hate this movie.
Okay.
It is basically it's basically like watching crappy 70s porn, but they're all beating on the women, and the misogyny in it, like, I'm sure that it builds up to a grand revenge thing, but I don't want to take this journey. I don't, and like, I was watching it in my office, and I'm just like, I don't even want, like, the kids next door to hear me watching this.
Well, it's like an exploitation.
Yeah, it's low budget exploitation, and to each their own. Like, I'm not.
Well, here's the thing. Here, let me just say, the reason I sort of mention him is because I've watched a bunch of. I like his tone.
I did too.
There's so much on YouTube that I just want to destroy. I hate.
He talks about a lot of hidden gems in science fiction,
and he brings things up that I'm like, I've never even heard of this.
Agreed.
Like, or he's talking about Hammer films that I mean, I kind of know, but like, most people don't think of when they think of Hammer.
I'm still a fan of this guy.
He did one the other day that was about. Did you know that there was a French film from like 82 or 83 that was done by Mobius?
Yes, that was I saw that. Yeah,
it looks bonkers. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, and I found it. It's streaming on. I haven't watched it yet, but that guy has been, every time I've watched one of his things, I've managed to write down a couple of titles like, I've never heard of that. Or he'll do these things like, things I gave another chance, or things that, like these, strange sci-fi of the 70s, cult sci-fi of the 70s that doesn't get talked about or something. And I think he does a really good job of finding these obscure.
No, he's great, and I do actually like everything about his channel. And I don't really consider, like, just because I didn't like these Ginger films, to each their own. No,
I didn't think you were writing him off or anything. I'm just. So it's funny, if we're thinking of the same guy, then he's got this way of, like talking about these things, and I'm like, I'd never heard
I
of that.
believe his channel is called. Wait, I'm sorry, I put it on. I believe his channel is called Terry Talks Movies. Is that
I
it?
think that's it. I think that's
Yeah,
it. He's Australian. He's very soft spoken,
yeah,
and
and
kind of
and he knows his stuff.
yeah, yeah, he does.
And like I said, I didn't like the recommendation of the Ginger trilogy, but there's still another film um, on that top 5 guilty pleasures I still want to check out. Like I'm still gonna buy that other film.
Yeah,
Um,
every one of his things that I've watched, I've I've found at least one title that I has intrigued me, or like I didn't know. Did a sci-fi one, like the 60s sci-fi that were kind of, or like, oh, it was I think it was British sci-fi. These
yeah,
British, not very well known science fiction, and sort of they have a darkness to them, or a weird, premise or something. He picks some great obscure
I
stuff.
think that's him. If not, I'll correct myself
Yeah,
and
I think it's the guy.
jump in. Yeah, but I do. Yeah, he was doing British sci-fi, and there was a bunch in there even I had not heard of, and it was like, my God, like you think you know everything,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. It's because there was another guy that had some up that some of it is. I mean, I hate to use the term clickbait, but it's like
oh yeah,
you see a title, or you're like, oh, and then you get a minute into it, and you can tell from the way, the tone of the person, that you're like, they really don't know what they're talking about.
or they're doing a character.
They're doing a character, and they're cutting to themselves, like doing a double take at the camera. And it's like the two guys I mentioned that time. I can't think of their names now, but they were like, we need to talk about Zardoz, or we need to talk about Life Force. These two Brits that
Yeah,
just start, they talk about the insanity of the thing, but then go into how it happened. And it was really engaging. And that's so rare to me to find someone that,
there's
engaging. Or there's a guy, apparently there's a guy, I watched a couple of these the other night. I forget this kid's name. I say kid because he looks like he's about 12, but very sharp. But he was, he'll like, this is my favorite 15 seconds from The Godfather. And he
oh yeah,
isolated the scene. But then he did one that was like, everything that's wrong with Christopher Nolan in exposition.
yeah,
And it's a critique. Well, apparently he did one criticizing the editing of Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie. And
yeah.
apparently John Ottman or Ottman or whatever his name is, that was the editor, got wind of it, like, excuse me, and came out of the woodwork and said, I'd love to be on your show and we could talk about this, son. I don't know if you know what and so he kind of had him on, or did like a Zoom call or something. But there's a lot of that where these, they've got it all figured out, and this is what I don't like about the way this thing was edited. It's like, shut up. God,
What's funny is there's a couple of Canadians that do cult movie reviews, and there's one guy that does it, and I'm not gonna name his name, but I like him, but I wish he wouldn't do, like, he acts like he's put upon. He's doing a bit.
Yeah.
And I think he knows his stuff. He's clearly a fan. He's, and I watch his videos, but I sit there and go like, oh, dude, you're trying too hard.
Yeah.
And there's another guy, and I will name this guy because I like him a whole lot. And he first of all, if he's not doing stand up, he should be doing stand up because he's funny. He's a guy. I think it's called Weird Movies with Mark.
Okay.
And very, very, very good delivery.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's local to me, actually. But one of the things I really like about him is the show used to be called Bad Movies, and he changed it. And he explained why he changed it. And he goes, I can't call Troll 2 a bad movie because I actually really like it. And that is very close to my heart. A lot of this, I love trash cinema. And
we know.
yeah,
Oh.
but I mean, I love it. I don't do the Michael Medved thing of standing on a hill going, that's stupid and I'm smarter than it. No, I get, like, I love it because most of the people that were trying to make it were doing it out of love, or it's not. It wasn't. It wasn't done well, probably a lot of it was done for a cash grab, but it's like ineptitude,
Well,
and
but this is I think this is a good way to get across what you're saying, because
yeah.
I feel I don't love it as much as you do or the way you do. I appreciate it. Trash. It depends on, it's hit or miss with me, but I appreciate it. But I can excuse the cracks in the pavement on things like that easily. Okay. $200 million for a movie.
Yeah.
And you couldn't write the script on a matchbook cover. And you just go, how many people were involved with this? How much time and effort and money? So I will give the edge to trash cinema, or the A for effort, any day of the week, because you got an excuse. I don't expect you to have people from Juilliard in
your expectations are lowered. Yeah. I think you're right.
When it's a shit accent in a low budget thing, and someone's doing a crappy, whatever, I can excuse it. When it's a 60 or 70 or $100 million movie, an Oscar winning so-and-so, and Don Cheadle, bless his heart, doing Cockney in Ocean's 11, you go, did nobody raise their hand and go, I don't know if this is working. I think it's going to stop the thing dead in its tracks. Maybe next time. Let's just not do it. That will irritate me more than bad effects or a bad stunt or whatever. I can excuse it because it's, they're trying. It's like it's I think it's you and I with the Ed Wood thing. That's what makes we love that movie so much. It's embracing that ineptitude, but the spirit behind it that's genuine. That's trying to actually make something, and it may not turn out the way it should have, but it was it was stacked against it on the way out the gate. It was never going to.
Funny, the other day, my son and I were working together on a project, and we came home, and we were joking about a movie called Miami Connection that we both love, and I turned on the Roku, and it was streaming. Through the Riff Tracks channel, and like I ran and got my son, and I go, how weird is this? Miami Connection is streaming, and we both watched the whole thing. And Miami Connection is a hilarious film. It is a guy, I don't know if you know about this, a guy by the name of YK Kim, who owned a popular dojo. He's a motivational speaker, and he decided to make a film, and it is just wonderful in its naivete, and it's a beautiful time capsules of the 80s, and it's clearly like everyone's speaking dialogue by someone whose English is his second language,
right?
And it's just it all works. It's pretty terrible, but it all sort of works, and you kind of love it. You love it.
Let me ask you this: have you heard of this movie called Psycho Gorman?
I have heard of it. I haven't seen it. I can't judge it. Yeah.
I'm curious what your take would be on this, because it had me for the first 15, 20 minutes. And then it kind of lost me, and I won't say why, but it's streaming, and it's it's like up on Prime, I think, or something.
I am very not cool with intentional exploitation. Like, I'm not a big fan of Rob Zombie's films.
This is more like this is how it struck me, is they love the stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So this ends up being kind of an homage. It's a comedy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about this alien entity that's been buried under the ground for a million years. That's the most powerful being in the universe. These two kids find it, and then this little, the little girl has the little stone that controls it, and it can't. But it's like this powerful being, and it's silly, but it's really over the top. Like really, you've seen Mandy, right?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
the over the top gore can lose me a lot of the times. Like I've tried to watch films that are acclaimed, that are modern, and then they say, oh yeah, it's a homage to this or homage to that, and then um I can't get into them because they desensitize me. I don't know
Yeah,
what it is.
like it's kind of like they sort of purposefully want you to see the strings in this.
It's faux grindhouse, and
Yeah.
I don't. Well, I'm sorry, I haven't seen Psycho Gorman, so I'm not talking about that. But it's tough for me to. It's like processed food to me, because for something, a lot of things that are grindhouse, well, they were filmed on shoestring budgets, and the film looks terrible because nobody cared, and you can see the boom mic, and there's very few black dynamites in the world for me where
Would you put
something
like
hits all the buttons,
would you put Death Proof and Planet of Terror kind of in there with Black Dynamite as they pulled it off? They're clearly winking at the genre. They love it. They're giving tips in film. Would you put those in that same?
I really like Grindhouse on the level of like, damn it, this was validating.
Yeah.
Do I like how many times I've watched, believe it or not, it's surprising. When I saw the film in the theater, I thought Planet Terror was more fun. But now I think I've watched Death Proof more times than I have Planet Terror.
It's funny you say that because I did the double bill. I went and saw it on the double bill with all the trailers and stuff, and I cannot do Death Proof. I just cannot.
Oh, really?
Saw it in the theater, and then I watched it again on the DVD set, the Tarantino set that I have. And Planet Terror to me is a little bit better, but I have an easier time.
I find it too, and I like Robert Rodriguez. I do.
Yeah.
I just find it's too much.
I just couldn't take all the conversations with the.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I like the ending of Death Proof, if I got to be perfectly honest with you. And I'd watch Rosario Dawson read a phone book, but
yeah, but just the whole, we're gonna rent this car and then we're gonna do this stuff.
Oh, yeah, it seriously needs an edit job.
Yeah, it's hard for me, but again, the to see, I'm glad that I got to the theater to see it all in one go and have
that was the worst Easter ever. I went with my friend to the late show of that, and we were like home at like 2 a.m. I think I fell asleep at one point during Death Proof because we had gone to the Irish pub and and had a couple of Guinness before we went to the film.
Not a good way to 6 hours of.
Yeah, and then the next day, like, my wife was like, "Well, you're helping out with Easter," and I was like, and I
get back.
And I'm like, yeah, fine, I'll help out with the egg hunt and stuff. But like, I got home at like 2, so I slept on the couch, and so the kids are, and I had my kids. When did Death Proof come out? Like, I think my kids were like in kindergarten at that time. Yeah, 2007. So my son's in kindergarten and my daughter is in like preschool, and so they were up at like 4, to do the egg hunt, and nobody questioned that Daddy was still in his clothes from last night.
That's your endearing memory of Grindhouse.
Yeah, that is actually the big memory of Grindhouse. Is like, and I remember my wife going, "I hope that movie was worth it." I'm like, nope.
Yeah, nope. Once again,
but then I think they yanked it from theaters like right away. So
it just bombed, and they pulled, then put them off individually, I think, and I
was so excited about that when it came out, and I still love the experiment. I like that. That's everything about what I like, but it didn't. It's not my favorite. Like Black Dynamite captures that genre so perfectly.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
So yeah, but
all right. Well, there you go. There are some things we've been watching and loving and enjoying, and maybe you guys will get turned on by them too.
Yeah.
I hope you've all learned something.
And send us some movie suggestions. Send us some genres.
Yes, and we'll do this again this week, I think.
Yeah. No, I'm free. I'm free a few days, and actually we could probably do something in the morning, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
All right.
Well, thanks everybody.
Enjoy.